psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, nurses, you name it, as well as taxi and bus drivers. The United Nations shows that child sex abuse is on the increase. The internet provides opportunities for people to download child porn. Incidentally, only 1 or 2 women have ever been charged with downloading child porn. All the others around the world have been men, which is curious. And of course, they pay to watch children of all ages being raped, creating what is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we were talking about the collectors program. You know, the young guy there has been arrested for downloading child porn. And at dinner the other night, an elderly gentleman sitting opposite me immediately said, well, it didn't hurt anybody. Oh yes, watching, and apart from the fact that children are being sexually abused for money, you know, every image that's downloaded has involved a child being abused, and some of them are only babies and toddlers. So watching and fantasizing about using children for sex is only a short step away from carrying it out. The only university doing research in this area has been Cork University in Ireland, and they've been funded by the European Union. They found that 76% of the men convicted of downloading had just abused a child or did so soon afterwards, so there was a connection there, a strong one. There are also pedophile clubs advertised on the internet, and to join you have to produce thousands of new images, and of course there is a cost. So you often find that the people who are downloading are professionals, often professionals who work with children, and even some clergy have been caught. Even a bishop's been caught. So the internet also enables sex offenders to access a whole new population of potential victims, children in their own homes using social networks and emails. An FBI agent demonstrated to Sydney journalists just how easy this is. Pretending to be a 12-year-old looking for a pen friend, she received 6 responses within 6 minutes, all from pedophiles, 4 of whom were in Sydney. And they asked for her email address. Chat rooms can be monitored, emails can't. Facebook has also made it easier to find new victims because young people reveal so much about themselves and they think it's cool to be sexy. For those of you who've got kids, keep your computers in the family room. Do not allow them to have them in their bedrooms. Look at Net Alert. You can actually find the phone number in the book. Net Alert has free materials, resources for parents and teachers on how to keep children safe on the internet. There are also other good websites. NetSafe in New Zealand is a similar one. But they have free resources that you can get hold of from Net Alert. They also put on some extremely good workshops. I thought I knew a lot about keeping kids safe on the internet until I went to one of their workshops. It was incredible. I'm sure you know most sex offenders were themselves victims who learned the tricks from their own abusers, and obviously the tricks were successful because they were abused. In London and America, the researchers found that 1 in 4 to 5 male victims becomes an offender. 20% of men who abuse boys begin before the age of 10. 43% between the ages of 10 and 15, and another 13% from 16 to 19. In other words, 76% of sex offenders, and this was out of 4,007 self-confessed sex offenders, had started committing their crimes before the age of 20. And both Bentovin and Abel found they committed an average of 550 crimes by the age of 30. We worked it out and found that just that group would have filled the Bird's Nest Olympic Stadium in China twice over with victims. So that is why we have to take sexually inappropriate behaviours by children more seriously than we are doing. I frequently get calls from parents whose kids have been sexually abused in school by slightly older children, and we know it's not normal sexual curiosity. I've got some overheads that I'll show you in a minute or two to show the difference. Because what they're doing is mimicking what adults do to them. Normal sexual curiosity involves you show you show yours and I'll show you mine, or I dare, and it's giggles and they're embarrassed and they're easily distracted. It is not about asking for oral sex or offering oral sex or inserting objects in people's genital areas. And this is happening increasingly, even in the best schools. The trouble is that staff haven't been taking it seriously. The parents have to take the victims away from the school because they haven't been referred to counselling, they're not being looked after, the perpetrator is still in the school, and so the victim gets punished because they lose their friends, they lose their school, and if you're up in the hills when there is no other school, the parents are having to go on to correspondence courses, which is unfair. There is a very good chance that these kids who are abusing will not become adult offenders if we can identify them and get treatment for them when they're young. But unfortunately, the very people who could help them, such as parents and school principals, are usually in denial, dismissing offending behaviour as boys will be boys. And there usually are boys who are doing sexual things to other boys rather than girls. DECs recognise that parents are not usually sufficiently well informed to provide child protection education, DECs being our education department. And we now have a child protection curriculum, compulsory in all state schools, that goes through from early childhood through to year 12. The problem is that if children with learning disabilities are in mainstream groups, they need much more activity learning, such as using role plays and using puppets and using videos that you can talk about and pictures. Opportunities to practice safety skills with parent participation so that parents and carers can reinforce the safety strategies at home. So if your child has not had access to the curriculum called Keeping Safe, ask why at the school, when is it going to be used, and most importantly, you need to be informed of what is being taught, why and how you can help at home. Because without your involvement, there's a risk that you will accidentally undermine what is being taught. For example, schools will teach kids that they can say no to grown-ups if touching is unwanted. Unwanted, by the way, isn't sufficient because they may not be unwanted if they've got a close relationship with somebody. 5 and 6-year-olds told us they tried to get help from parents to stop uncomfortable touching, such as wet sloppy kisses from aunties and whiskery chins rubbing against them from granddads, excessive tickling from uncles and violence from siblings. And they said when they approached mum, usually, wanting her to stick up for them, they don't. What they said, 5-year-olds were cynical, it really upset me. Grown-ups stick up for each other, they don't listen to kids, they don't believe kids. Why sex offenders target victims with disabilities? They're safe, if caught, police are unlikely to charge them. Victims often don't know what is abuse. They may lack friends and respond to grooming, which usually consists of feigned affection, attention and approval. Offenders lack a conscience, telling themselves it doesn't harm them, and adults are least likely to believe a child, and they stand out in a crowd. Pedophile clubs were advising members to choose children with Down syndrome because they were easy to spot, they're considered to be eager to please, and police are not likely to put them in court. Next one, thanks. Yeah, that says practice together, stepping back, holding out your arms and saying stop that, it's not allowed. Now you need to give them lots of practice at saying no, because you find that children with disabilities put their heads down and they mutter and whisper. It's got to be a firm stop that, it's not allowed. In New Zealand they also practice responding assertively to persuasion and blackmail. Because sometimes when children say, stop that, I don't want you to do it, etc., the person doing it will say, you know you like it, or I thought you were my special friend. And in New Zealand, they actually had children with intellectual disabilities practicing saying, yes, I am your friend, but it's still not allowed. I thought you loved me. Yes, I love you, but it's still not allowed. So that they were being assertive. And do not, children, ever to say, I'll tell, because that results in threats such as, if you do that, I'll kill you or your mum, or I'll go to jail and it will all be your fault, and all the blame is then put on the child. Hope that makes sense. Schools teach children that they mustn't keep secrets about touching. Have we got one about secrets there? Ah, thanks. Because, as you see, offenders rely on secrecy to stay safe. When kids say they have a secret, adults usually say we have to keep secrets, assuming that they're nice. Sex offenders rely on secrecy for their safety, and ideally make your home a no secrets household. If you get carers in, put a sign on the fridge, this is a no secrets family, as a reminder. Get children to work out which secrets are good ones that they can keep, such as Christmas and birthday surprises, and which secrets they must tell. Talk about who they can tell, introduce the kids helpline, teach children how to make emergency phone calls at home and from phone boxes with or without coins. Some programs are a one-off, next to useless, although I should say that any program is actually better than none. But they're pretty useless for anybody with a learning disability. Information has to be given in many different ways to ensure that they understand. You have to use role play to get involved, have 2 pretend telephones to teach them how to make an emergency call, to say who they are, to give their name and address and do it clearly. Pretend to be the operator. You know, which service do you want, police, fire or ambulance? Teachers with 35 in a class don't usually have the time to do the practicing and the reinforcement that children with special needs actually require. Most parents say, be a good boy and do as Grandad says, or the childminder says when they leave kids with others. Please don't do it, because we found that kids will do what the minder says even if they know it's wrong, because they're more afraid of displeasing mum by disobeying her. And they say childminders are grumpy when you don't do what the childminder wants you to do. So they'll do it even though they may not like it or they know that it's wrong. Children must be given correct names for body parts, including genitals, so that they can tell a teacher clearly if someone sexually assaults them in the school toilet. We found 20 different names for penis in one class at Modbury. Why is it that we call an ear, a nose, but think we have to think up some silly name for a penis? The funniest I collected was golf set. two balls and a stick in a bag. Now, can you imagine the problem a child might have going to a busy teacher in a school playground and saying, somebody touched my golf set? I don't know why it is that we are so reluctant to give children the vocabulary. This isn't sex education, it's vocabulary. But when we introduced our program here in South Australia, Queensland was in uproar. Now, since 1985, we've used penis in schools and vagina. But I was invited to talk on ABC Radio in Brisbane and worse in Bundaberg, and they said, weren't we spoiling children's innocence by teaching boys the word penis? I could not believe it. No, it's child abuse that destroys children's innocence, not correct vocabulary. And in the end, I got my revenge, because this just went on and on. And I said, well, since your police are still using a 1970s American